Contenders to win the national championship. Gave you my tier 1, had 2 teams in it. Gave you my tier 2, had several more. I want to move into our sneaky tier to win the national championship. Now, this is to kind of give you a lens as to how we put this list together. This is a team that might be somewhere in the 9 to 10 win range, likely in that bronze medal category for their conference, probably about where they're projected to be. But if they have a variable fit together perfectly in 2024, think Michael Penix Jr. in the way that he propelled Washington last season, they could win a national championship. Now, I also want to make sure we say this list is not all-encompassing. If we went through every single sneaky national champion, we'd probably be here for the better part of a couple of hours, which we'd be happy to do, but I don't know that that would do tremendously well when it comes to the content we're putting out. Regardless, though, let's jump right into it, man. Ole Miss. Ole Miss is a team that I was extremely close to putting into the tier 2 category for us when it comes to national championship contenders. The thing with Ole Miss, man, they are going to have a college football playoff caliber offense. Period. Mic drop. The end. They bring back 80% of production from last year's squad offensively that scored over 30 points a game. Oh, by the way, you sprinkle in a little Juice Wells from South Carolina. You know what he is in the SEC. Jackson Dart, the step he took from year 1 to year 2 in that RPO scheme. The step he could take from year 2 to year 3. Trey Harris, he's back. He's a big-time wide receiver. All these pieces for Charlie Weiss and Lane Kiffin offensively, they're right there. They're right there to do some really good things. They have that on the offensive side of the ball. Make no mistake about it. The major hinge for them that could take them from 9, 10 wins into that SEC champion, and then who knows where they are in the college football playoff category, is the way that those new acquisitions on defense fit. Do they sizzle? Do they pop? And when I say sizzle, I mean like sizzle would be you just increase the level of play, right? Like they allowed somewhere in the range of 25 points a game, did Ole Miss's defense last year. Not bad. It's not good enough to win the SEC, but it's not bad. But if you have Walter Nolan and Princely Umanmielen, 2 top 10 players in the portal for us here at On 3, if you have them translate the way that I think their ceiling could translate, Ole Miss is dealing with the big boy SEC defense. You got an offense to go with it. Like at that point in time, I don't know how you're stopping Ole Miss offensively. I don't know how you're able to score against that Ole Miss defense. Like there's a lot of things now that I really like about the way that Ole Miss sets up for 2024. Again, we almost put them in that tier 2 category. Tier 3, they'll feel very comfortable putting them at the top of that tier 3 for sneaky national title contenders. Speaking of sneaky contenders in the SEC, let's make our way out to Knoxville. Josh Heupel, man, say what you want about what they didn't do this past season. They still scored over 30 points a game offensively with a quarterback that I think was good, maybe not great, with Joe Milton. And that's not to dunk on Joe Milton. Like you just came off of a year in 2022 where you scored over 40 points a game and had a dude who really should have been a Heisman finalist in Hendon Hooker. I digress. The bottom line here is when it comes to their hinge point, if Nico Iamaleava is as advertised for them from day one, who's stopping Tennessee? Because we've seen how this offense is supposed to run. We've seen what it can look like with the right guy pulling the trigger back there for them at quarterback. Hendon Hooker, again, had him scoring over 40 a game. The reason why they weren't able to accomplish what they wanted to accomplish in 2022, one, the defense had some real issues. It's pretty straightforward. The second part of this, too, Hendon Hooker got hurt. Now, let's widen the lens here a little bit. If you put that 2022 team with Hendon Hooker playing quarterback and an offense operating at that level in a 12-team playoff, who wants to see a Tennessee offense operating like that? That's what I think Nico could bring to the table with this Tennessee team in 2024. Because to be real, man, we've said it a couple times, I don't see a ton of physical limitations to what he does. Like he can spray the football around the field. He's a tremendous athlete. You can call a lot of run-pass options with the quarterback run baked in there. You saw it in the bowl game against a good Iowa defense. Like the ceiling for this Tennessee offense, if it exists, it's extremely high. And if you got them in a 12-team playoff, man, I do not think I'd want to play the Vols. Especially in Neyland. If they got to host a playoff game, forget about it. Another team that you got to talk about here when it comes to that sleeper tier, kind of the sneaky one that might pop finally in 2024. And Trey Anthony and I talked about this before this show, man. Like Penn State's probably the place your mind goes first. Happy Valley and company, like we talked about it last year. Is this a year for them? You upgraded quarterback ability-wise with Drew Aller. You got a defense that's ready-made to go win a national championship last season, it felt like. You had a stable of backs in Katron Allen and Nick Singleton. There's a lot of pieces All right, there's no way around that. There's a lot of pieces, but it didn't formulate last year because you didn't have any explosivity offensively. Last year, Penn State averaged 6.5 yards a pass. Good for 86th nationally. Y'all, that's not going to cut it. We all understand it. It doesn't matter how good your defense is, how many NFL cats you have on that side of the ball. It's not going to cut it. You average 6.5 yards a pass. Okay? Now, here's what I think could happen. Drew Aller, again, doesn't lack anything physically from an arm talent perspective. Dude can deal the pill. There's no question about that. If he gets more comfortable as a quarterback at the FBS level and gets some more help on the perimeter, looking at you, Keandre Lambert-Smith, if you can stretch the field, make those safeties have to play a little bit deeper and they can't trigger as quickly on the run game. The defense brings back some pieces too. Like, I know you lose Chop Robinson, but Abdul Carter, he's a freak show. He's going to be a dude for you this year. If they can be more explosive offensively, Penn State could win the Big Ten and could win a national title. It sounds like I'm being hyperbolic there. I promise you I'm not. Last year, if they just scored 25 points against Ohio State and against Michigan, they're undefeated. They're probably Big Ten champs. Now, that's a very big if based on how good those defenses were last year. But the point remains the same, man. Drew Aller and what he brings to the table, I think his ceiling is extremely high. And I think for that reason, James Franklin and company, absolutely a sneaker tier kind of team when it comes to their national title hopes in 2024. You don't put them at the top. I don't think they're going to get picked to win the Big Ten by a lot of places. But if they have a little more of a meshing this upcoming offseason, Penn State could be in there. Florida State, man. Florida State's fun to talk about right now because they don't return a lot of production. 83rd in the country. Got a quarterback that a lot of people have question marks about. DJ Uiagalelei. You know, you saw him in the ACC at Clemson, and he was billed as a five-star recruit. Didn't really work out how a lot of people wanted it to after Trevor Lawrence left. Goes to Oregon State. Oregon State looked great last year. Clemson took a few steps back offensively. Here's the deal now with Florida State, man. The burden of proof with Florida State and with Mike Norvell is no longer on Mike Norvell in Tallahassee. The burden of proof is shifting to the haters. Hey, you can't go to the transfer portal and live that way. Really? Mike Norvell's done it now the past couple of seasons. Back-to-back double-digit win seasons. Everybody pretty much agreed that the way that the College Football Playoff Committee treated Florida State last year was nothing short of abysmal. Florida State, man, if DJ Uiagalelei is able to live up to his five-star billing, which he had out of high school, how good is Florida State going to be? I understand there's a lot of pieces you got to replace, but they've gone to work in the portal. They have, man. Like, there's no way around it. They're going to have guys that were highly rated transfers be in their starting lineup. And based on what we've seen to this point, like, they're probably going to hit the field and have an instant impact and be able to have a pretty good instant impact. Malik Benson is the guy that I'm watching most closely for them at wide receiver. I think he's going to be a stud. This time last year, we're talking about him being wide receiver 1 at Alabama. It didn't work out that way this past year, but it's not to say he doesn't still have that much ability. Go get dialed in over at Warchant. Keep an eye on those practice reports. He's going to be a dude for them, I think, this upcoming fall. And I'd be surprised if Mike Norvell and this transfer portal haul don't do Florida State things by nature of how Mike Norvell has attacked the portal. I'm just saying now. You can have question marks, but when we start to see a trend here from Mike Norvell and how he uses the portal and how the portal impacts Florida State year in and year out in a positive way, it's not an accident. That's a trend, that's a process, and that's a result that I think Florida State fans can be a little bit more expectant in 2024 with that portal class. So Florida State, lose a lot of pieces, but still, I think they're going to be one of those teams that could definitely end up being a national title contender. Last team I want to get to here, how about Notre Dame? How about Notre Dame, man? And I know some of y'all just chuckled when we said that, but here's the deal, man. Riley Leonard, he is being billed as a top NFL prospect for a reason. Heck, when we started the year, he was a top 5 quarterback for a lot of people's money. He ended up getting hurt. That wide receiver room in South Bend is much more dynamic than it was a year ago. I'm not speaking ill of last year's wide receiver room. They just added much more speed with Chris Mitchell from the portal, Jaden Harrison from the portal, 2 guys that can go for you. If Riley Leonard is able to put it together, both as a passer and as a runner, Notre Dame's going to be tough to stop. And that sounds fairly simplistic, but to put a finer point on it, think about the jump that Jaden Daniels took from year 1 to year 2 under Mike Denbrock in his offense. Now, Riley Leonard doesn't have that same base he's working with, getting a full year in Mike Denbrock's offense, but look at the way Mike Denbrock utilized Jaden Daniels' skill set. That first year, it was kind of musical chairs offensively up front for them. I think Notre Dame is in a much better spot overall offensively than where Jaden Daniels was his first year in Baton Rouge. I think the skill set of Riley Leonard is just teeming with potential. And then defensively, they got some really key pieces, man. Benjamin Morrison, Xavier Watts. You lose some other key pieces to the draft, but really, I think in their secondary, they're going to be able to hang with just about anybody. So Notre Dame, man, if Riley Leonard puts it together to be first-round pick kind of player in 2024, and that offense is humming how even just a version of what it was at LSU under Jaden Daniels, good luck to you, man. Good luck to you playing against Notre Dame, especially in that first round of the playoff. If they get to play in South Bend, be nothing short of poetry. Also received consideration, Missouri. I need to see a little bit more of a sustained sample size from them before we put them on that sneaky tier contender list. Brady let him cook, one of my favorite guys. Cody Schrader is a dog. He's obviously gone to the league. Luther Burden, arguably one of the top receivers in college football, period. So I love Missouri. You could probably put them on this list. We're going to stick with that short list. Again, we could probably fill 2 hours talking about sneaky contenders with this expanded playoff. But regardless, that's those are the teams that we think deserve some consideration for sleeper national title contenders. Hey y'all, thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel here to make sure you don't miss an episode of The Hard Count. Also be sure to check out other videos on the On3 YouTube channel.